Bangalore team should win and this player should score this many runs, etc. And maybe the Bombay players get out. But if I am rooting for India, then that is something that I treat myself as a whole. Then it does not matter who I'm really supporting. I'm just supporting cricket there or that particular sport. And then I would really enjoy cricket. Whoever wins, whoever scores, I would just look at that. May the best player win. May everybody is healthy there. May everybody just give their best out there. So this wrong identification is that I just consider myself as a limited person, as a limited being. Maybe once I have a family, I start to think that, okay, I and my family is one unit, and then so it is us versus everybody else. That is the wrong identification, which is the problem. And this prayer helps us to get over that. And once we do that, then what we ultimately gain out of that is we gain empathy. This picture has a limitation in itself that it only shows that I have this inner connection with every other human being. But once we actually flex this empathy muscle and we get more and more stronger in that, then we would realize that we become more empathetic towards everything around us. And one may think that how is it really going to help if, let's say, I'm sitting in my bedroom in the night and praying for, let's say, somebody in Africa or whatever. But haven't we seen that when we plant, when we water the roots of the plant, then we don't really see that those waters are reaching the leaves, but they do. And similarly, Swamiji says that our prayers also reach them. And just at a physical level, if we have to understand, then if our vibrations, if you can call them that, would be positive, then the whole world is thinking that way. Then ultimately it is going to get us that good. So I need to just make sure that my mindset, my outlook towards everything is such. So I need to bring that empathy in me and make sure that I'm praying for everybody. It's a very special, it's a very strong prayer in which I'm not just looking out for myself, I'm looking out for everybody and everything living, non-living in the entire creation and the entire universe. Now coming back to our main topic that we have for today is Karma Yoga. Again, this is not something, a very new topic that we haven't heard about. We all pretty much know about it, but let us treat it as a refresher for today. In the last week's class, Dr. Sundar, I borrowed his slide over here. He covered that our amongst the main goals that humans have, the most important goal or the final goal that we have is that of moksha. Moksha is generally termed as freedom, but when we study more, than Swamiji says that it is not really freedom, it is actually giving up. Mukti is actually giving up. And what can we give up? If Vedanta says this body is not ours, these thoughts are not ours, then what can we give up? We have just wrong notions in ourselves to give up. For example, the wrong identification we talked about in the Shanti mantra. So those are the wrong notions that we need to give up to get that freedom. And right now, what is happening is, and then once we get that liberation, then we get everlasting happiness. That is not a short lived one or a temporary one. That is the everlasting one. But right now, what is stopping us from that is that it is kind of, loosely speaking, it is covered with different layers of ignorance. There is ignorance in mind, there is restlessness in mind. The most gross level is that there are impurities of mind, which is also called mala. Now, how do we get to this everlasting happiness? We have to uncover these layers. So we are today dealing with the first layer, which is called the mala layer. And the exercise, the sadhana, as sir was mentioning, that we being the sadhakas, we have to do a sadhana to get our sadhya and become siddhas. So this is the sadhana to do, which is called karma yoga. Now, what is karma yoga? If you see, it is made up of two words, karma and yoga. And it is one of the first disciplines for a mumukshu. Mumukshu is the one who is seeking for moksha. And it's the first discipline because Each one of us does something or the other in our life. So that is kind of a karma. We'll discuss exactly what karma is. But we do that, and that is the way that we evolve. That is how we improve upon ourselves. But nobody actually told us how to go about it. What are the things that we need to take care when we are doing some kind of a karma? Now, what is actually karma? In physics, if you actually loosely translate karma into English, it might be called as like work or action. And we used to calculate in physics that 23 joules of work was done. But let's say, so we used to call, if there is a motion, then there is work. So is every motion work? For example, the planetary motion is there, sun and moon, and these things are going around. Is that called karma? No, that is not karma. It has to be done by a human being or a sentient being, because we are the ones which have that special abilities, which I will talk about. And the second thing is, at the night, I, the human being, am actually snoring. So is that called karma? I'm not doing it for a particular purpose. That is just happening. So that also would not qualify as karma. Karma means something which is done by a sentient being for a particular goal. Here, all the goals that we are talking about are ultimately leading towards moksha purushartha. But there are so many intermediate steps also. But a karma would only be called as karma if it is done for a particular goal, not it is just not happen. For example, if I sneeze or if my food is getting digested, it is not a karma. Then the third thing is that if somebody puts something, some gun on my head and asks me to do something, now that is not again something that would be called as my karma. So there has to be a free will associated with it. So different conditions need to be met when we call something as a karma, that it has to be done by a human being, a sentient being, for a particular outcome through a free will, through a choice that I want to do that. So there is a sense of agency there, and there is a sense of needing to do that. So that is called karma. Now, what is yoga? This is the most interesting part. We pretty much all of us know what exactly karma is, but yoga is the bhavana, the attitude behind doing that action. So, karma is not just any action, it is like the proper action. We'll also talk about what exactly do we mean by the properness of this action. But here, yoga, which is perhaps the more important thing in our these classes to discuss, that what we mean by this yoga is the right attitude, the proper bhavana that we have behind that karma. And once we have that, once we do the karma in karma yoga fashion, then also whether you do karma in whichever way, you are destined to get karma phala out of it. If anything, any action happens, then the result is bound to come. That's the cause and effect theory. Later on, Swamiji's will discard that also, but for our discussion right now, we would say that there is cause and effect. If you do karma, then obviously you will going to get a karma phal, which is the result of that particular action. Now let's delve further. In nutshell, then what exactly is karma yoga? I would just summarize it in the beginning, then we'll expand it later on. So karma is, as we saw, it is an act done by a human being willfully for a goal. That's the karma part of it. And the right attitude or right bhavana that we were talking about was that it has to be done without the sense of doership. Now, this is a little bit of a complex thing that we need to uncover, that what do we mean by the sense of doership? How do we do any action without the sense of doership? And then the third thing is that we should do it without the expectations of the results. Again, we saw that every karma is going to bring out results, but then we are asked to not expect the results. So then what does this all mean? But in the nutshell, karma yoga means that I'm doing something with the attitude of doing it without having the doership attitude and not expecting the results. Now let's delve a little bit inside into it. As we all know that this is a very famous mantra from Gita, second chapter, Karmanyev Adhikaraste. Karmanyev Adhikaraste. All the adhikar, all the authority that we have in ourselves is only to do action, only to do the karma. Not even just the authority, we only have the freedom to do karma. There's nothing else that we can really do. We can think about anything that we want, but all that we can do is karma. Ma phaleshu kadachana. We are not even authorized or supposed to think about or expect any particular results. We have to be not be motivated by the results of our actions. It has to be just the karma, and then it becomes a karma yoga. If I have the authority only to do karma, then what's the point of spending time in that? Now we have to see if I was going through one of the talks of Osho in which he was mentioning that if I have only thing that I have is to do action, and if I am still putting my attention on the expectations of the result, then I'm pretty much dividing my attention from one productive thing to one unproductive thing. And the amount of time or attention I'm putting in mesmerizing about the expectation of the results, that much time I'm putting less on the action part of it, on the karma part of it. So it is inversely proportional to the good results that I'm actually going to get. So let me repeat that. The amount of attention I'm spending on thinking about the results that I'm going to get is inversely proportional to the actual good results I'm going to get. Because that much less time I'm actually putting in the real karma. And believe it or not, we all believe it that the outcome is not chosen by us. And we can choose it, but it is not going to come as we have chosen it. It is given to us. And why it is that? Because the karma is done by a vyakti. A person does a karma because that is all that is in the purview of a person. But the result comes from samashti, that is the everything around us. There is not, I am not the only person whose actions are deciding what those results are going to be. So then why not I focus on things which I can change or control? And that's the whole idea about it here. And do we really, and also the action is the only thing that I can do in the present. And we don't have any other option to live other than the present. We cannot live yesterday, we cannot live tomorrow. So all we have is now and present in here. And in the now and here, all we can do is the action. And the results are only going to come in the future. And we cannot really predict what is going to come in the future. Even our birth, we could not predict. We did not have any option or choice in that. Even in our departure, we'll not have any option in that. Then in the middle part of it, do we really think that we have an option to decide what is going to happen? It all happens. Sure, we will have a part to play in that. But ultimately, what is going to come out of that is not entirely dependent upon ourselves. We'll see an example of that shortly. So, from the bhakti or the dharma point of view, what they would say is like, I would just do my part and then leave the rest upon God. That is one way of thinking about it. That, okay, I am just going to do 100% of my action. I will devote all my energies to that. And then later on, I would just believe that the God is going to play his role and do the whatever is right for me. This is basically coming to terms with that I have so much of control and everything else is out of my control. So let me just put the best foot forward and then expect whatever is coming on my way. Now, if you see this picture, how much ever of a world-class bowler one might be, or a batsman for that matter, we'll just stick to the bowler for a minute. I can decide on the pace of the ball. I can decide on which spin I will do, what length I'm going to have, where am I going to pitch on the crease or the pitch, and am I going to bowl the cross seam or across the seam, and all those things I can decide. And my goal obviously is to make sure that the batsman gets out. Now my job is to make sure that I still bowl the perfect ball, but is it really in my hands to make sure that the wicket gets out? Not really, because there are a million factors involved. Whether there is a crack in the pitch, whether the batsman is able to focus on that particular ball, whether there is an outer edge, whether there is a particular fielder standing in that particular location. Maybe the fielder had a good or a bad last night. Maybe he's not fully focused, and even if a catch comes, I may not catch. There are so many factors that are responsible to make sure that a wicket gets out. And that is just one simple example. Similarly, everything in around us, I do whatever action I do. Let's say even if I do my project, and then there are a million reasons by which that project may get successful or may not get successful. I still remember when Windows was launched the first time, it went into blue screen. Now there are things which are out of your control, but that doesn't mean that I still should not put my best foot forward, but then expect the results whatever they are. So here the bowler is still going to ball his perfect delivery, but still the outcome is still dependent upon so many other factors. That is a thinking that we have to understand. Now, how do then I overcome the expectation of results? It's easier said than done that if I am not expecting the results, then what is the point of me doing it in the first place, right? But we also said that no, we are still doing it for a particular outcome to happen. We are doing our action towards that. But then whatever ultimately comes, we are not bothered about that. I mean, we are bothered, we are not going to get disturbed by that. Now, why do we have this particular expectation in the first place? Let's understand that first. We want to enjoy what comes with those results. We know what will happen after those results. Let's say if I take that wicket, we're going to get a victory and then we're going to celebrate and all the things that follow that. So I know about those results, and so I'm trying to do that expectation of those results, that this is what I like and this is what I'm going to get. Now that enjoyment is based on something that I did. Because for example, let's say if a bowler, I'm sitting in Bangalore, and if there is a series going on in Australia and somebody scores a wicket, I am not going to get any benefit out of it. So karma is happening, some outcome is getting achieved, but if I have not done that karma, I'm not going to get that karma phala. So what that means is that I'm going to get a result only if I have done something. So then that sense of doership is the one which is ultimately expecting the results. Now, this is what Vedanta mainly talks about, that this sense of doership, that I am doing it. Now, if the bowler starts thinking, oh, I'm such a great bowler, I know I have taken 300 wickets already, and so I'm going to do this and that. He should still be very confident about that. But if that starts to play in his mind, maybe he'll not be able to fully focus on what is going on in the real match. Now, I need to get rid of this I-ness from this whole picture. And I just have to think that I have to just perform my best and then expect whatever happens. This whole thing at the level of transactions, nothing really changes. The only thing is that we need to change that vision in ourselves, that where my attention actually is. Ultimately, for an outsider, everything is still going on the same. But where my mind is, where my attention is, that is the only thing that decides what is the. So I'm not exactly sure where it got disconnected. So I'll just speak the last few minutes. Hopefully, it makes sense. So what we were talking about was that I need to get out, because that is what ultimately brings me to the expectations of the results, and that is where I do the mindset of getting disturbed and all. Now that is only a change of vision. At the transactional level, nothing really changes. I'm still going to do all those things the way I've been doing. I'm still going to get what I'm going to get. But where my attention is, how is the quality of my mind? That is the most important thing. And that vision once changes, that's when I become a wise from an unwise. And the difference between a wise and an unwise actually is that the wise people know that all this action that is on around me is just that the sense organs are interacting with the sense objects. And these are all because of the in the prakriti, must, and they it is their quality to actually, it is their nature to actually interact, and certain things happen. So that is all is happening, it is the nature of the prakriti, and that's why that is happening. But I, the what who am I, sir, was saying that that particular I is unattached, and that's when I become wise. Now this is again some, no, but what happens is that we are into such force of actions and force of habits that we tend to forget that unless we have a jolt of that. So that I can illustrate, I would like to illustrate with a story. There was a boy, in his dream God comes, and he says that tomorrow you go to the beach, and then you look for a stone. Once you find that particular stone, all your wishes are going to come true. And then the boy says, great, but how actually am I going to identify which stone that one is? He said, God says it is very easy. You have to just pick it up and then it will be a little warmer. So you will know that it is that particular stone. So he says, great. That next morning he goes there and he looks for different stones. He doesn't find it. He picks one, throws it away, picks it, throws it away, doesn't find one. Next morning again comes and does that. And he thinks like, I don't even know which stones I have really looked at. So let me do this thing that I will pick the stone and then the one that I have checked, I will just throw it in the ocean. And then he started to do that. And that whole day he didn't find anything. Next day again the same story. He picks, he doesn't find, he just throws it in the ocean. And then the days go into weeks, and the weeks go into months, and then several months pass. He's every day doing the same thing. Picking up the stone, doesn't find it, throw it in the ocean. A year passes by. He still hasn't found, but he does not lose heart. He still goes the next morning, and that day he actually finds that particular stone. It is very warm in his hand, but he still throws it back in the ocean. Why? That is what the habit is formed in him. That is what the force of action is. Whatever we keep doing every day, that is what keep happening with us all the time. So we need to have a particular thing that will break that particular type of an habit. So right now we have been doing all actions with the expectations of results. Break that particular habit in ourselves. Do something about it. And today, the fact that we are here is an attempt towards that direction. Now, how to overcome the sense of this doership? It is called Ishwar Arpana Bhava, that everything that I do, I offer at the altar of the Lord. Honestly, whatever we do, we pretty much do an offering at some altar. Whether if I'm doing my job, this is going to bring happiness to them, or I'm devoting it for them. And the higher the altar, the bigger sense of satisfaction I get. So what is the highest altar? It is Ishvara. So whatever I do, if I offer it to the Lord, then I will not have that sense of doership, because I'm just doing it as a offering to the Lord. So in Krishna, in third chapter says, Mai sarvani karmani sanya sadhyatma chetasa. With a devout mind, I offer, and he basically tells Krishna that you offer all your karmas to me. And now what you are, you're not the I who is doing the karma. You're just an instrument through which that particular action is happening. And he says, offer all these actions. Here I have bolded because he does not fit the action. Just don't have the sense of doership. By all means, do the
Plus,
action with all your.
plus I
Yes, sir.
suggest put your video off. Your internet is a little unstable. Put your
Yes.
video off.
Sir, is this better?
Better, Ullas. It is better.
Okay. So offer all your karmas unto me is what Krishna tells Arjuna with a devout mind. And he says, fight. He does not say, don't do the action. Do the action, but without the sense of doership is all that is being asked for here. Because what happens is, when I do something, that action is done by somebody, by a husband, by an employee, by a father, or whoever. When I do something, a somebody is born, an I is born. And that is where all the problems start. So how do I do without getting the somebody born? Is that I just do it as a role play, that I'm on the stage. For example, I'm Maharana Pratap's role I'm performing. I'm not really Maharana Pratap, but I perform my role perfectly well. But at the end of the day, I always know that I am not Maharana Pratap. But in that moment, when I'm on the stage, I'm 100% in that moment. Now, at that point, I'm doing everything very cheerfully. Once we are cheerful, we are always in the present. We cannot be cheerful in the next moment or in the last moment. So if I do everything cheerfully, and if I do it in the 100% with the mindset that I am only an instrument of these things happening, instrument of happiness is the IOH there, or by expression of happiness is all that I am doing, then we can get rid of this sense of doership. And when we don't have the sense of doership is when we act. Otherwise, we always react, because all the reactions are because of all the default settings that we have built in that I-ness of ours, all the habits that we have built so far. And these habits are pretty much the result of all the likes and dislikes that we have picked up throughout our life. These likes and dislikes don't really have a logic behind them. You don't like bitter gourd, I don't like bitter gourd. There's no real reason behind that. It is just because. So these default settings are the ones which are defining our reaction towards any experience in the world. These become our habits, and then we actually react. We don't act. Action can only happen if we are peaceful in our mind and we are judicially thinking, objectively thinking about anything. One another thing that when we do actions and then we say, okay, I'm highly evolved, so I'm not just looking for myself, I'm trying to do something to improve the society. Swami Anubhavanandaji always says that everything that we are doing is for our own evolution. It is for our own selfish needs so that we get salvation, we get evolved. The help word should be deleted from our dictionary, because when I say I'm helping somebody, again that I gets born, that I am doing this, so this good should happen. I'm just trying to do something for my own self. If that is the attitude, then we will remove the sense of doership. Now, once I have removed that, then how do I treat the results that I get? Because results are bound to come. Now I have to accept those results as a prasad buddhi. Once I get, when we go to big temples, we get prasad, then we don't really do an analysis of prasad. Well, there is less sugar in it, or I should have gotten more quantity of it. We always revere whatever we get. So that is how we need to treat all the results that we get out of all our actions. So that is the mindset we need to have once we get the results. So Vivekananda says that work for the sake of work, that enjoy the journey, as we generally say, instead of the destination. Because if you have enjoyed the journey, then whatever the end result that comes is also we are going to enjoy, because we have enjoyed the overall journey anyway. But if we are waiting and postponing our happiness towards getting a particular result or reaching the destination, then we are in for, I mean, it's not really a surprise. We are, even if we get what we like, maybe it might be a momentary happiness, but there will be times when we are not getting it, and then it is suffering all over again. And it's generally proportional to how much ever of happiness we get in the things that we like. And when they're not there, then we're going to get as much unhappy. So once we develop this prasad buddhi, what we are going to have is that develop that mental state of equanimity. That if I get what I like, then also I'm at peace. And then even if I don't get what I really like, then also I'm at peace. Slowly our likes and dislikes are going to start fading away because we are happy with whatever we get. The idea is again not to do the action with lesser of intensity or perfection. But what we get, which is not completely in our control, we accept it as a prasad buddhi. That is the whole attitude change that we need to do to get from karma to karma yoga. Now, how do we do that? We develop the attitude of acceptance that, okay, anyway, all the actions are not by my choice, that everything that is happening around me, it is not because I want that. So I accept that first thing. I don't compare with others, because comparison would, if I compare somebody's strength with my weakness, oh, I'm not such a great programmer, then I'm going to feel bad about it. So I'm not comparing. Whatever, I would just try to make myself better and then accept the results that they come. Then I need to have humility. This is very important, that many times we think that, oh, I have done this and that's why these results have come. But as I've been saying so far, that there are so many factors that ultimately, even if I'm successful or I get a promotion or I get a deal or whatever, then there are million factors responsible for that. Then there is no point. It does not make logical sense to be, proud about that I did that. You need to have the humility. Sure, I played a part, so I'm happy about it. But then I'll not have the arrogance that I did that. And then have the devotion that whatever he's going to do, he's not going to be unjust to me. They say life is unfair. That's pretty much not, I don't believe in that. Life is quite fair. And the law of karma is for that. We'll discuss that later. Now, we have seen the attitude part of it. Now, a little bit of a technical discussion on what types of actions there are. Now, we have just classified these into, again, based on the different gunas. And any classification is not really classifying anything in a whole. For example, the space cannot be fully classified as north, west, south, east, but still it is helps us to get understanding about that. So the three types of actions can be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. The sattvic, as prescribed in our scriptures, are the compulsory ones that we must, all of us must do, and they are the ones which are going to promote our spiritual growth. The rajasic ones are not something that is deemed as compulsory or necessary or that you must do that, but they are allowed. You are allowed to do those as a stepping stone to get to different stages. But these are the ones which are mainly done to promote our material growth. The spiritual growth is pretty much stagnant or minimal in those terms. And the tamasic ones are the ones which are banned because these are the ones which demote my spiritual growth. These are some things that I do at the expense of others. Now, little bit getting inside that the sattvic actions are the compulsory for every mukshu. There is no choice that I can do this one or avoid that one. And these are nishkama karma because I don't have any desire behind them. There are no tangible benefits that come out of it that I'm going to get a car or a house and things like that. The benefits are intangible. And again, another classification there are of five types. The Pancha Mahayajnas that we know. The Deva Yajna is the one in which I pray, do my daily prayers. I go and do arati to the Lord. And these are the generally this is the karma which generally gets first on the chopping board when I have other things on my plate. The Pitra Yajna is the one in which I am towards my parents, and that is unconditional devotion that I do take care of them and all my elders. Like unconditional in the sense that Rama did not think that okay, Kaikeyi is bad, so I'm not going to worship her. He had obviously the all the greatest of respect for Kaikeyi and Dasharath and everybody. So that's what those great epics are for us to learn from them. And even for our forefathers, we need to make sure that special ceremonies and special days are conducted. The Brahma Yajna, this is the most enticing one for me and very important one also, is that we need to understand the scriptures, what is told about. It is kind of a manual to understand our own self. Like a manual comes with any particular electronic. This is the manual for us. And so understand ourselves is one of the most important things. So we do that, we revere our rishis who actually brought these things to us, and we do whatever part we can play in promoting the same because we have gained the benefit out of that. So why don't we share it with others? Manushya Yajna is the one in which I serve my fellow human beings. Now, all the conflicts in the world is because, again, identification that I'm the limited person, I'm the only one, so I'm not helping anybody. But we are told that this is another sattvic action. And again, if it is a sattvic, you're compulsory to do that. So you have to serve your fellow humans, not to improve them, but for your own need, but for your own the attitude of serving them. So that's how we protect the poor, serving the needy. This comes into that. And then the last one is the Bhuti Yajna. The preserving the nature and ecology is nothing new here because this is what we are asked that plants, animals, non-living things, everything we are trying to maintain an ecological balance. So these are the different types of sattvic actions we are asked to do. Their proportion can be different that I could spend more time in Brahma Yajna and one could spend more time in Manushya Yajna, but all of these have to be done in some proportion or the other. Sometimes these get deprioritized because we are more focused on our material growth, but the idea is now let's get to the Rajasic action. These are the Sakama karma. I'm doing these for some tangible benefits to fulfill the desires of myself, my family, mainly selfish in that aspect. And so I am trying to do primarily for my material growth. Now, again, as I was said, these are not compulsory, but these are not banned. In fact, in the earlier parts of the Vedas, there are methods in which they tell how you can achieve a particular benefit. So these are allowed. These are even told in the scriptures, but they are not really there to help you spiritually. These are not a sin also though. The tamasic actions on the other hand are sins. These are nishiddha karma. These are prohibited. Now I am doing something to gain something selfishly at the expense of others, like violence or cheating, etc. So I am asked to increase my my sattvic karmas, reduce my rajasic actions, and absolutely ban my tamasic actions if at all. Now, what are the benefits of this karma yoga? As we had seen in the beginning, that we are trying to achieve that everlasting happiness, that spiritual growth. Once we do all our karma in a karma yoga fashion, then that inner growth, irrespective of whatever we get in our material life, but that inner growth is what we are going to get. And once we do this karma, the main purpose has been that once we have done a lot of actions in our life, we would realize that what is real and what is unreal. Unreal is anything which is there temporary. Whatever I do, I have seen that I only get finite results and finite benefits. These are not infinite. So I have realized that everything around me, there is a shloka in Mundaka Upanishad, Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan Brahmana, in which when I observe everything around me, I see that everything is so temporary and I cannot actually achieve infinite happiness by finite efforts. So now this Vivek automatically comes into me with the Karma Yoga. And once I know that these all things are unreal, these are all temporary, then I don't have to do special penance or practices to get that vairagya. That, okay, this is unreal. What attachment I would have to. And once I have that, then I will certainly have the mumukshutvam to what is real, what is that eternal thing. So all these things are so important, and you can achieve them once we start doing karma yoga. The prioritization becomes easy in life, like what I should do when there are two things I'm at a crossroad. And then once we have this notion in ourselves, then we can prioritize ourselves. Uh, just the desire that I want liberation is not enough. We need to act upon that, and karma yoga is the way for that. And once we start keep doing karma yoga, then we start making our environment conducive around us, that all things will then automatically start happening. We start to, even, many times people say that where do I find my guru. Once we have our efforts there, once the flower is bloomed, the honeybees would come. So this is the effort of blooming our own flower. So these are the benefits of karma yoga. Now, coming back to the initial part, as we had seen, that with the Karma Yoga, we can remove this mala nivritti, we can remove the impurity of mind. Then the next things that we are going to look in our few further sessions are, what do we do with the Upasana Yoga? How do we concentrate our mind so that we can actually look inwards in a very systematic fashion? And then ultimately, once we have prepared our mind without the impurity and focused it in one direction, then what are we supposed to know that is going to get us that liberation, the coveted liberation? So the take home message from Karma Yoga is, let us act without the sense of doership, accept the results as a prasad. So Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Prasad Buddhi. Once we do these in Upasana Yoga, we gain the qualification to receive jnana. And then once we do that, then we would give up our wrong notions and get liberated. So in the next session, we are going to see Upasana Yoga. Let me finish it with this Shanti Patha. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sajini madam.
Ravi, you would like to open it for discussion?
I think we have lost Sajini, madam.
Yes.
Dr. Sajini has left for the day.
Yeah, we can have a few minutes of discussion, Ravi.
Yeah, we can, Doctor.
Yeah. Open for discussion for anybody who wants to ask any questions.
And my apologies for the interruption in the between. I know we have ran over time.
No problem. Can
Due to that.
keep your camera on, Ullas, no? Keep your camera. Dr. Jagdish, you have any questions for Ullas?
No, sir. Thank you so much.
How do you survey bhavantu sukhina, then how do you love your nation and then fight with other nation? I know I'm silly. I'm just asking because nobody asks.
I'll just share my understanding and then sir, please fill in the gaps. I think what your question is that how do I love my neighbor as well as how do I fight with them to protect my borders? I think
Yeah.
again,
Yes.
even when we, these two things are not kind of mutually exclusive, I would say. One part is, for example, it's the same question that Arjun had in first chapter that these are my loved ones. It was not even about the nature and everybody else. It was his own grandfathers and his own teachers. And he was like, how am I supposed to even respect them as well as fight with them? So it is the question of the identity crisis that Arjuna faced.
Dharma.
Role, we need to identify what is required of us in that particular role. So when we are in the battlefield, that time we are the warriors and we need to protect our borders. So the role that we are doing, we need to identify what exactly we are there for. But the Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah is an attitude that we need to have overall in our mind at all times. And when we are fighting with somebody, we are fighting from from the idea that we are trying to protect what is dharmic, what is the righteousness around us. And for that, if we need to fight, then by all means, even Krishna says that fight, or Arjuna, why are you such an important person? So it is about identifying with that need to play and then go from there.
Thank you.
Sir, would you like to add something? Thank you, Dr. Asha.
Just for discussion's sake, Dr. Asha Naik's question was, if everybody have this vision of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, will you be a successful leader of your business? Will you be a successful leader in your country? That means it looks like that if I have to be successful in my business, that I have to be willing to cut corners, I have to be willing to so sometimes it may appear that a successful CEO of a company is one who shows in a lot of profits. But these successes are only short term. That is why even today in businesses and even world over, leaders are respected internationally if they are more selfless and they have a vision of the whole. And that is what we have seen all over the world also. No? For the sake of short-term gains, when you focus on my country versus the rest of the world, then you're certainly being selfish and you will say, my country will progress. But then it does not come under the vision of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. So there is always this conflict will be there, but on a long run, you stand to gain. On a short run, you may lose votes, you may lose popularity.
I have a question. This is Sandhya here. Regarding children, parents always tell their children that, look, if you want to do well, you have to do this, this, this. You want to pass that exam. You know, if you work hard, you will definitely get the result. So, I mean, should a parent be conveying like this, that if you work hard, you will definitely get good result? How far that requires a change in presentation to the kids?
Thank you, Sanjay. I think in my example that I had mentioned that caller has to still see that he is the best in what his delivery is going to be. He is pitching it to the right length. He is making sure what is right for this particular batsman. And he's doing exactly what is needed in that particular situation and in the best possible manner. So the child also need to prepare for the exams. We need to put our best foot forward, and it will only increase the chances of making everything well. So when I'm preparing for the exams, then I need to obviously study well. I need to understand my concept well. There's no two ways about that. So I must do that. The only thing is that if all the time I'm worried about, oh my God, I have to come first, I have to score 90% marks, or this is, and I have to score more than my friend. And these things are only taking me away from my actual studies. So there is, as I said, there is nothing going to be changing in the transactional part of it. I'm still going to study all my chapters. I'm still going to spend X number of hours. The only thing is that I still have to have the desire that I have to take that wicket or I have to, score great marks and study well. But all the time in my mind, if I have that, restlessness, that disturbance in my mind, then it is only going to hamper the actions that I'm going to be taking. And this ultimately is going to go against my goal of scoring great marks or understanding the subject better. That's my
I
understanding.
would say, okay, a grown-up student, fine. Let's say a middle school, high school also, or even a college student, but how about children in the primary school, smaller children? I personally feel the parents, the kind of message that they give to their children, saying that, look, if you work hard, you will definitely get a result which is commensurate with it. Probably that message needs to be changed. What's your
I
view on it?
my personal view on that is, if you're talking about kids who are in primary levels and all, there I think we are trying to nurture them with our understanding. So at that point, what we talked about in today's class is more relevant towards what we think. I think in the beginning we can say that oh tree, your roots should be so strong that you can weather all the storms, etc. But that is not entirely true for a small sapling. It is initially we need to provide those guardrails for that particular plant, and once it becomes strong enough, then we start imparting these things and how do you strengthen your roots. So for those kids, we need to be strong enough to say, okay, whether he or she is making his best efforts or not, but then whatever the results come, then I'm not punishing them, but I should all still let them strive for the best. But then, it is again just a mindset change. There is nothing really that changes at the action level per se. I'm still going to do that. But how am I managing the quality of my mind is what we are trying to see. I don't know if that answers the question, sir, if you would like to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, I've got it. Thank you.
I would fully agree with you. As you said, it is only a mindset. And you show that in your child also. You encourage them to give your very best. And you don't punish them or reprimand them if the results don't come out. So subtly you give them the vision. Children imbibe whatever you have imbibed. And so you need to show these things more from your attitude rather than telling them anything.
Yes, Dr. Hegde, that's exactly what I feel. The message that a parent gives to a child right from the beginning, the child would get trained accordingly, to think accordingly, and would focus rather on result, would focus on, enjoying whatever he or she is doing and doing it more for the pleasure of discovery and learning something new and finding the excitement in it rather than, being result oriented. That's my view on this.
Certainly,
Thank
certainly,
you.
yes, Sandhya.
Hello. Hello.
Please go ahead.
This is Venkatesha. Hey, we were talking about Sarve Jana Sukhina. If many, good souls, many people, many saints, sages, and many institutes, social organizations, they'll be chanting this. But still, with all this, why people are undergoing trials and tribulations in their life? First question. Second is, if we are chanting this, if we are praying, are we not interfering with the karma theory? When I have come to this earth, I have come with some kind of karma that I need to undergo. So when such is the case, how anybody praying that people should be all right, people should not be sick, people should be good, people should be well off, all those things, how will it help? My question is this to you, sir. Kindly, if it is possible, kindly clarify me this.
I'll share my views.
Yeah.
I think what you're asking for is that there are so many people already wishing this, but that still doesn't make any difference. There are still
Absolutely.
problems in the world. And second is, if I really do anything about that, then am I not interfering with the law of karma, that I'm trying to change the course of how things have to be?
Absolutely.
So again, my views on that are that if that were the case, then it is kind of a fatalistic approach that everything is pre-decided and there is nothing that I need to do. Because even if, let's say, again, because we are in this setting, I would say that if Arjuna is asked to do the war, then is he really changing the course of how things have to be, or that is the course that the things were anyway, going to be? But with humans, we always have a free will. The law of karma generally says that what I am doing right now is going to decide what is going to happen with me in the future. And again, Swami Anubhavananda ji says that this law of karma and these theories are just to make sure that we understand that I am not this body only. That whatever I do right now is be all and end all. This is just to ensure that we understand that we are beyond this particular body. But other than that, everything that is happening in the world, if you just understand from the more of a spiritual angle, then it is all happening at the level of that there is consciousness and everything is manifesting and manifesting and things are just happening. I am not actually going to, it is all about the identification, what I'm really identifying myself with. So most people are doing these chantings and all. One way I could argue against it is that maybe the things would have been worse if it were that way. But again, there is also an identification at the body level that I am this and those sins are there, and then those. Here we are trying to learn that I am not a separate individual, a limited being. We are just, the change in the mindset has to become that I am part of the whole. There is only one whole. And so the one hand cannot say that, okay, the other hand is anyway trying to help the leg. So why should I even bother? And then if the mosquito is destined to, suck the blood from my leg, why should I even try that? Everybody's trying to do their part and they're trying. Once I have that identification that I am part of the whole, I think it doesn't even remain a question that why should I even pray? I'm not doing it out of any specialness in myself. This is something that will naturally happen. It'll be. But if my identification is different, that those bad people are because they have done something bad. In the 10th and 11th and 12th chapter, Lord Krishna also says that bad things are happening, but this is all part of himself only. I don't know if I've confused you even more, but sir, if you can clarify.
No confusion. They're very, very clear in your views. I'm very glad.
Thank you. Ravi, is it time to close the discussion? Because we are already gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time to close down.
All right. I'll just say a few words and I wish, and you're going to do the Thanksgiving, but very nice, Ullas, the way you presented the topic as well as you handled the interactions. Very nice, clear slides. And thanks everybody for the participation. Ravi, final word of thanks from you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
On behalf of the School of Ancient Wisdom, I thank Dr. Ullas and Dr. Timapagde for giving us such a wonderful session. We are looking forward to the continuation of this session next week. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you. Thanks, Sajani. Thanks, Ravi. Thanks, Ullas. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.